But did you ever have any intentions of getting involved? Like when you were younger, is that something you actually planned on, or is it something that came later on? And if you did plan on it, did you ever see yourself on the wrestling end of it?
Me? No, I was never like, listen, I could have been one of those backstage interviewers that got thrown around once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
But I was never, I mean, I've never been that, built guy who wanted to be a wrestler. I always wanted to be a broadcaster. But it just came around by chance for me. Long story, very short. I was the sports anchor at a station here in New York called UPN 9. And it had to be about the mid 2000s when WWE's Friday Night SmackDown, I think, went from, I want to say, Spike TV to the UPN network, right? So it was Friday Night SmackDown on UPN across the country. And because I was the New York guy at the New York affiliate, they wanted me to do all of the WWE segments, the pieces, the features that would air on all the newscasts that would come on at 10 o'clock after Friday Night SmackDown. So SmackDown would come on from 8 to 10 on Friday night. And there in the news during SmackDown, they would have something to promote to keep that wrestling audience watching the news, right? So a commercial would come on during Friday Night SmackDown. Coming up after SmackDown on the 10 o'clock news, you'll never believe what Hulk Hogan used to do to get ready for his matches, and they'd give you a nice little tease. And I would, as the sports guy here in New York, one of the things I would do aside from regular sports is I would have a WWE feature piece that would air in the news across the country on those UPN stations. So they would have something to tease, to hold, you want to hold the audience from 8 to 10. You want to hold them for the 10 o'clock news. So they would always have a featured WWE piece, whether it was the Bella Twins or the Miz or whoever it was back then, the Big Show. I was the guy who would go to the WWE events and I would interview like 10. They would give me superstars all night long and we would just interview. And I'd have all the stuff done for, all these different packages or segments, if you will.
So that's really smart, because I know pro wrestling, rightly or wrongly, has kind of a reputation of, if it's on a channel, people will tune in for that show. The wrestling fans will always go in for it, but they won't necessarily stick around for other programming after, because they're there for the wrestling. So by teasing wrestling being involved in the news, it's very smart. That's a smart way of doing it.
Absolutely. And I thought it was a good idea when SmackDown went to Fox. I thought for sure someone would do that where, on Fox, because the 10 o'clock news comes on after SmackDown on Friday nights on Fox News, all the stations. So you throw in a little tease there because it is a different audience. It's a different audience watching from 8 to 10 than is going to stick around and watch the news and just stay there. Mm-hmm. But if you give them a little tidbit of something in the show to stick around for, they may stick around and watch your local news because they're going to see a feature piece. But anyway, so regardless, that's what I was doing aside from my sports anchoring at UPN 9. And, one thing led to another. They were looking for a new host to do the studio shows. And I got a call from the PR director and he said, "Hey man, we're looking for a new host." And it almost seemed like I worked for WWE at the time anyway, because I was interviewing all their people. When SmackDown kicked off on UPN, I flew out to Green Bay. That was the first show. And I interviewed Vince backstage and did all these things. So it was really kind of like I was already working for the company. And when it came time to look for a new, like I said, I got a call. I put a little demo together with all my interviews with John Cena and CM Punk back at the time. And I sent in my little demo. And then I got a call and they said, "Hey, Vince just looked at, like 40 different tapes. He hated everybody." So I pulled out yours and immediately he said, "Hey, get this guy in here." And I got the gig. And that's been 14 years. Back in 2009, I started. And it's been a fantastic ride ever since. I've pretty much gotten to do everything for the company, from ringside commentating on WWE superstars, to backstage interviewing, to pre-shows and post-shows and everything else in between. So it's been absolutely fantastic.